I did it.
Yeah, where it says more, Marilyn, where it says more.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
really?
Yeah, just
Okay,
click on
in
that.
any case, now we're recording. So as I was saying, if you are new to us, please consider becoming a friend and join us so that you could help make sure that we continue having all of these wonderful programs. In December, in addition to today, November, we're still in November. It's today, but in December to close out 23, Shelly will be having a movie on the 13th and again on the 27th. So put that in your calendar as well. So getting back to today's movie, we're going to go to Morocco. And Shelly, we know all about how wonderful you are. And if you want to know more about him, the CV is on our newsletters. And I think you all know Shelly. That's why we're all here. And so Shelly, take it away and take us to Morocco, a trip to Morocco.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes, we even have Bob Hope and Bing Crosby in this film, which I thought was terrific, which is great for the filmmaker. Anyway, yes, welcome back, everybody. I hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving and looking forward to the holiday season. Anyway, Rock the Casbah, it's a French-Moroccan production from 2013. The director is Leila Marakshi. She grew up in Casablanca. Her husband is Alexander Aja, who is Jewish, a director and writer of horror films, which there is a little mention of even in this film at the end. There's a mention that her husband does horror films, Sophia's husband. Anyway, her first film, this was her second feature film. Her first film, which was entitled Marak, was a love story of a Muslim girl from an upper-class family and a Jewish boy, and it was the most popular film in Morocco in 2006, believe it or not. It was based on an episode of her life, a dramatization of her adolescent experience in the upper-class milieus of Casablanca in the late 1990s. Upon its release in Morocco, just as a little background, in March of 2006, the French-Moroccan production was vehemently attacked by Islamists and the conservative press. In a final measure of Morocco's controversial reception, the film was debated in Parliament, no less, and was granted a theatrical release on the grounds that it had been approved by the selection committee of Morocco. It went on to become a major success, attracting over 300,000 spectators in just a few weeks in Morocco. Rock the Casbah, her follow-up film, is all recriminations, revelations, and reconciliations. A few years ago, as she talks about it, a few years ago, her elderly uncle died. It was shortly after the release of her first film. And he was a very important figure in her family, a sort of whimsical patriarch full of poetry. She went through 3 very moving days of mourning, as in the film, during which she discovered the women in her family in another light. She said, "I saw them as fragile, but unafraid of revealing themselves. I thought this could be the subject for a film through which I could show our traditions, which are very different from those of the Western world, but I was afraid it would be too gloomy to make a film about a funeral, especially since the subject has been covered so often in cinema." So instead, she took the 3 sisters, and 3 sisters to her have always been the subject of literature, plays, and films since ancient times, whether in Greek tragedy, Chekhov especially, and Tolstoy, and of course Shakespeare. She wanted to do a dramedy exploring the notions of class and culture through the flaws and foibles of this upper-class Moroccan family caught between Muslim tradition and ever-widening Western influence, with references from King Lear and Tolstoy, as I said, and resembling a conventional French family saga. The three sisters come together for their father's burial, revealing sibling rivalries, sexual tension, and, of course, contentious inheritances. While exploring notions of class and culture in a country caught between Muslim tradition and ever-encroaching Western influence, some left over from colonial times, especially speaking French, the sisters argue over love troubles and father issues, fetching and cursing each other, much to the shock of their elders. They each represent both a rising tide of feminism in Morocco, as well as a growing discontentment with the status quo, which added an urgency to the subplot of the paternalistic heir who could upend everything. As Layla Marakshi explains it, we observe the passage into adulthood for these women who remain somewhat childlike. They have lost their illusions. They are no longer struggling and live in nostalgia. They aren't fulfilled because society's imposed things on them. And at the same time, they haven't fought for fulfillment, to love the person they wanted to, or lead the career they might have hoped for. Instead, they have allowed themselves to be closed in by their environment, and this in a culture which is very complicated to affirm one's individuality and to find a middle path. Death symbolizes the end of an era. Once the head of the family has disappeared, you can feel the stirrings of revolt. His death has a revelatory effect on the women for the 3 days of mourning. They can finally express themselves freely, even let themselves fly off the handle. In some cases, as a result of being constantly restrained, forced to put up and shut up, Oriental women inevitably tip into excess. They represent a snapshot. Each of these represents a snapshot of women in Moroccan society today. The film is set over 3 days, and as you've seen, divided into 3 chapters, with headings that denote the mourning ritual known as Janaza, the living, the dead, a burial, and continuation of life. And during those 3 days of mourning, when drinking and smoking are strictly forbidden, except in the film, no one holds back in terms of transgressing these rules, not even the ghost of Hassan, who is constantly sipping a whiskey. Layla Marrakesh explains that in this very regulated society, transgression is their only form of expression. It's as if they were all permanently trapped in a pressure cooker. They say the opposite of what they think, they do the opposite of what they say, and they go out to bars to smoke and drink in secret. It's a society that is permanently torn by contradictions. This sometimes gives rise to some very funny situations and also makes these characters very touching. Omar Sharif suggests a tone of magical realism in the film, acting as a narrator and master of ceremonies, reflecting those who hosted public screenings in Morocco ages ago, recalling the way people went to the movies, and warning us, the audience, not to take things too seriously. It's only a movie, he says. Giving him a ghostly presence in retrospect provides a great deal of irony for us in this film, not the least of which it was the last film he appeared in. And for the director, it illustrates how the rapport with death is different in Muslim culture. In large families, people learn to live with the dead. They live their lives with an awareness of death that has nothing unsettling about it. We don't rush mourning in the Arab world, she says. On the contrary, we take the time to come together during long rituals, which means the members of the family support one another. We learned that Hassan's choices led to awful consequences, but he's such a pleasant ghost, no one could hold this against him. His appearance serves to lighten things up whenever the plot seems to be going off the tracks or becoming much too soap operatic. The fourth sister revelation, which comes somewhat later in the film, who left years before and committed suicide after an affair with Zakaria, but not for reasons the sisters believe. And each sister is well delineated in the film. Miriam, who goes from seeming like a bimbo to becoming deeply moving, embodies those very sophisticated Moroccan women who think that emancipation is first and foremost about how they look. She's all about appearance rather than a quest what I find moving about them is their profound solitude. They appear to have all the trappings of the liberated woman, but they don't really live out their status as women. They may well have had an education and seem emancipated. And as Marakshi says, it is still tough to be a fully fledged woman in that society, especially, she said, since we don't have any role models upon which to build. Often, all we find are mothers or successful career women who let their personal fulfillment come in second place. Interesting. Kenza seems to be the most grounded, being seen as the intellectual in the family, a school teacher, liberal-minded concerning a son, and somewhat happy in her marriage to the dentist. While Sophia found the only way to exist was to leave. She emigrated to the United States, which in those countries represents the ultimate dream, or else the devil incarnate. But life is not so straightforward. She got married, became an actress, but her marriage is foundering at the beginning. Sophia is almost in denial about her family and her country. Like the others, she is overwhelmed by the death of her father, with whom she had broken off. This return to her roots is key for her internal reconstruction. She carries the burden of living up to what her sister never managed to fulfill, escaping the father and becoming an actress. On top of that, Sophia feels responsible for the situation of the mother and sisters, who themselves are not fulfilled. She is no doubt the most structured of the women in the family. She is also the most westernized. While the majority of the men are portrayed as cowards, exploitative hypocrites, or misogynists, the director wanted to show how in these societies men are born with tradition on their side. As a result, they are less driven by contradiction than the women, not to say less driven, period. In the Arab world, you often find this setup, a patriarch who runs everything, and then infantilized or broken men who, like Zachariah, are looking for their identity. But as soon as the patriarch is no longer there, the women have space to speak out, and the status of the men is called into question. But Marakshi makes Zachariah the key to the film by positioning him different to some degrees from the other men, making him hypersensitive and also a rebel. He had the same upbringing as the four girls, but ended up being rejected by those who raised him. He bears the pain of this betrayal and also has a hard time accepting the social status of his mother, who is the maid. Zachariah has no place of his own in this sense. He has an affinity with Sophia, indeed. It is through them that the truth comes out. And at the end of the film, he is rehabilitated. He represents the future with all the freedom and uncertainty which that implies. And there is the relationship between Aisha and Yakut, the maid, that casts a light on the suffering of women from different classes in traditional society, really not far from European society as explored by Tolstoy or the Victorians, same type of thing. And regarding the climax and ending, she wanted to show what happens in Moroccan families when a crisis blows up. In that culture, the family unit takes precedence. The clans always live in the realm of the unsaid. And when it all blows, things can finally be said. It's a moment of healing. They don't like conflicts in that society within the family. Whenever a crisis erupts, they do everything to calm things down, find common ground, and preserve the survival of the clan. It is 82-year-old Sharif who elevates the film, reminding us of his ever-present star quality and charisma. 52 years. It's been 52 years. In this film, it was 52 years after his memorable entrance in Lawrence of Arabia, and his equally memorable Dr. Zhivago, not to mention, of course, his Nicky Arnstein. The last line of the film, delivered by Sharif, is so full of irony and poignancy, which I love. He says, what is the last line of the film? I'll miss you all. I'll miss you all. And of course, we miss him. It was ironic. He didn't know this was going to be his last film. So it is ironic that the part he plays and his exit from the film. I don't think any actor has ever done that. The fig tree that we see at the end of the film, with its complex branches twisting all over the place and revealed by young Noah as the first thing Hassan planted, if you remember, becomes a wonderful metaphor for the whole film. As Hassan says, it bears the fruit of wisdom and generosity. The use of Arabic, French, and English in the film, by going from one language to another, she wanted to show that this family possesses skills that ought to allow it a wider outlook on the world. But on the contrary, we find its members closed in, psychologically blocked. Using these three languages was a way of showing the schizophrenia that exists in this family, in which they think in French, communicate in Arabic, and fantasize in English. Of course, French and English are symbolic of the colonial culture, a cultural heritage. This generation of women faces. Their children study at the French or American schools, and at the same time live in a country that is strongly anchored in tradition. So it is difficult for these people to find the right identity. About the casting in the film, Omar Sharif, of course, was Egyptian. Hiam Abbas, who plays Aisha, is from Israel. And some of you may remember her even from her earlier films, The Lemon Tree, an Israeli film in which she was wonderful, The Visitor, an American film for which she stood out and was awarded. She was in the film Munich, Steven Spielberg's film Munich, and she does another wonderful turn in a film I presented many times called The Syrian Bride. Nadine Labaki, who plays Miriam, and she's very interesting. She's from Lebanon. She is a director. She's an actress, but mainly a director. She's directed several important films, among them Caramel, which was her first film, is also a wonderful study of women in Lebanon. But her not her most recent film, the film before us, was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film. And it is one of the best films of its year. It is entitled Capernaum. And it is about a young boy who wants to declare his independence from his parents because they have too many children, and he doesn't like the way they treat him and the other children, and wanders off on his own. It is an amazing film, I will tell you. And Lubna Azabal, who plays Kenza, the intellectual, is from France and Belgium. She was born in Belgium and she lives in France. And Morjana Alawi, who plays Sophia, is from the United States. So she says it all came from what she wanted to do. And her encounters with these actresses, and they're all very smart, very well-known performers in each of their countries. Her encounters with it from the start, she didn't want to limit herself into a 100% Moroccan cast. The idea of a pan-Arab cast allowed her to widen out the subject matter to the whole Arab world. In other words, she understood that if she used all these women, anybody in the Arab world seeing this film could find no fault with it and just say, it's a Moroccan film. Then, once the actresses and she got to know each other better, they realized they had a lot in common. They all grew up in their respective countries of origin, confronted with the unsaid rules, the taboos, the difficulties of living out womanhood before leaving, and for some of them, then returning. The cinematography, there's a strong sense of place in this film. The Moroccan ambiance with its tropical elegance, distinctive white buildings and panoramic ocean vistas is shown throughout. I mean, she really takes us through Tangiers. She takes us into the Medina. I mean, it's wonderful how much she covers cinematically in this film. It makes you want to go there. And as for the squabbling and angst of the family members, it utilizes a somewhat golden light. She wanted to capture Tangiers as both a city with a glorious past where artists found inspiration and the open city of her own memories. She returns there, and in a way, it has become her lost paradise, a line that Hassan also uses in the film. At the very beginning, when we learn that he's no longer alive, he said, "I'm in a lost paradise." Marachi wanted to capture the cinema she grew up with, taking the time to do beautiful shots, using long single takes to tell a story and observe the characters. If you did notice, the camera moves around, keeping one take going. The soundtrack was mostly composed. The composer's name is Rob Cordaire. He's a French pop rock musician who scored over 30 films. There's one song in the film which stands out, and it's the song during the funeral. It's called The Great White Ocean, which adds a lovely contrast sung over that scene. And at the end credits, it's also a song. If you stayed for the end credits, you would hear the same song. It's a popular ballad written and sung by a group called Anthony and the Johnsons. And it's really one artist, and he's known as Anoni, and he's transgender, and known, he became transgender and known for her chamber pop and electronic scores. In fact, she was nominated for the Oscar in 2016 for Best Achievement in Music written for a motion picture. She was nominated for Best Song. The song was known as Manta Ray. And she has an extremely unique voice. If you listen to it, beautiful voice, and adds another element to the film. And she was, I believe, the first transgender nominated for an Academy Award. So she broke a barrier herself. And there are so many, memorable moments in the film that are funny. I mean, from the very beginning, I will let most of that first scene go unmentioned if you remember what they see with Hassan and what they argue over. And the doctor, and they wanted the doctor to take care of me. He said, "But I'm a dentist. I'm a dentist." His son-in-law was a dentist. Also, the only nice guy, the real nice guy in the film, if you remember, was the dentist who cared about his wife. But the scenes with the three of them in the supermarket is hilarious because that's where they're really letting out their feelings about how they're dealing with their daily lives. We saw a lot of it in the film, and also the relationship between Aisha and the maid. At the beginning, she wants her out of the house because of how she feels, but by the end, she comes around and says, "You're the only one I have, so stay." And they are sisters. She said, "What else can I do? I couldn't run away, and this was the life that was put out for me," which, again, Marachi talks about in terms of how women felt in the society. So there you have a rundown on the film, what the director wanted to achieve, and I think she achieved it well. Of course, the movie is almost a combination of a rom-com and a melodrama and a social issue film. She manages to take all three and twist them together in some form. It is highly entertaining. And I think that's attributable especially to the actors in the film. So I hope you all enjoyed it. And now I'd like to open it up. So who's going to go first? Who wants to go first? Oh, don't make me play my little game. Okay. Sandra, thank you. You got to unmute yourself. You'll get there. Oh, she's having trouble. No. Okay. Let's. All right. While she's trying,
Oh, there
who
he
else?
is.
Ah, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, first of all, I have to tell you that my favorite scene was in the supermarket and when they brought out the toilet plunger. And anyways, Shelley, did you show this film to the FI there
As
our
a matter
Thursday
of fact, I did. Yes.
Yeah, because I remembered it. As soon as I started to watch it, I didn't remember like everything, but I remembered that I'd seen it. And it was a great film.
I hope you saw more this time.
Definitely, because I kind of knew, what was going to happen.
Terrific.
Anyways,
Thank you.
that
Okay.
scene.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. The scene at the dinner table when they all lash
Yes.
out at each other. You could just see it happening, like they're just have to get it all out that they've been suppressing. So very good.
Yeah, I think there's a resonance in the film. There's definitely things we can all relate to. There are universals in the film that we can all relate to, despite the cultures. Yeah,
family disputes, yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Sandra. Jackie.
Well, we both liked it a lot. We actually believe that marriages and funerals bring out the best and the worst in families. And that's just typical. And being one of three sisters, I got it. I thought that was really pretty funny. But to be honest with you, my favorite scene, I don't know if Larry thought so as much, but I love when the little boy was talking about the fig tree and the mother and grandmother looked at each other because there was no way he could have known that. And I thought that was very telling. I'm one of those kind of people that I really do believe in that kind of stuff. So I thought it was interesting. And I thought it was interesting that they never pushed it any farther than that. They just kind of looked at each other like they were questioning it, kind of wondered, and then they moved on. So I thought it was very well done. And yes, we definitely want to go.
Terrific. Thank you. Yes, I mean, the little boy is a great contrast with his grandfather, especially she says, I finally get to meet you. And, he had never met him. And now he's taking him in his arms and the boy is relating. Was one, especially at the end when he runs to him and he sits with him. And I love it when he's explaining to him about the whiskey. He says, it's not for you. It's not for you. Terrific. Fran.
The title, Rock the Casbah, is that referring to the music? Is it referring to the rocking of the family, or do you have
I think it's well, it has multiple meanings, but I think Rock the Casbah is to mix things up. Let's get into it. Let's show a society in transition, especially among the women. And I think that's what she wanted to show. I mean, Marakshi is definitely a director who likes to stir things up. She lives mostly here in the States with her husband, who, as I said, is a master of horror films and has a very happy marriage. She did have trouble with her family, but she rocked things up in the Casbah long before this film. So I think that's what she's reflecting on.
One more comment in the grocery store. I love the comment of the person behind the counter who said, ladies, you're in a grocery store, you're not in the bathhouse. In other words, they could have been talking that way in the bathhouse. It would have been fine.
Exactly. In fact, there is a film about that. It's called I Only, what is it? It's about smoking, and the women only smoke in the bathhouse. They can only be seen smoking in the bathhouse. I Still Hide to Smoke is the name of the film, and it stars Hima Abbas in a wonderful role. It is a drama, and she stars in the film, and she's absolutely wonderful in the film. I highly recommend it. It's called I Still Hide to Smoke. Okay, Marilyn.
I really like the way the secrets in the movie were revealed. I thought it was done beautifully. They sort of caught me off guard, and I, and it just shows how secrets ruin so much in life. And then this is one as well. And the secret about the maid's son being Omar Sharif's son, and the interaction with one of the daughters, and how it affected all of their lives, and the cultural differences, like when the maid who had a child with her husband, I forget who, the wife, the Israeli actress.
Him, a boss. Yeah.
Right. And the maid.
Right.
I mean, how you hear about the man of the house having an affair or whatever with the maid. And I think in our culture, I don't think that could ever happen, where they would have that sisterly connection. Whereas in here, in this culture, you just accept it. So maybe they're just so far ahead of us. And it was really nice to see. But the secrets I found very well done.
Yes, the revelations were terrific. I mean, it's this. I keep thinking of certain things in the film. There's that wonderful scene when they're fighting after the funeral, and the Nana says, "I feel like I'm in Bloomingdale's." I thought it was hilarious. These things came out of left field. There's an awareness of Western culture. Especially with her. I mean, she's a riot anyway, but there's that awareness of Western culture. I mean, when they bring the car to the Medina and he comes out and they've stripped the car, and she says, "Why didn't they just steal it?" He says, "Because they get more for the parts." That's very real. So, there's a lot of humor in the film, especially it's set up at the beginning. Once they start playing "We're Off on the Road to Morocco," that this is a film that's going to be humorous, that's going to be comedic in many ways. It's also showing a love for movies. What she's expressing here is, I remember movies, and here's one for you. Especially, I mean, I thought the casting of Sharif was absolutely wonderful in the film. We all remember he was one of cinema's great actors. He portrayed many great roles beyond the three that I mentioned, and I think it was really great seeing him, if for the last time on the screen. So it was wonderful. Who else? Anybody else out there have something they want to add? There's got to be.
Okay,
okay, Rachel. Yes, come on.
I also liked it. And what I loved was Omar Sharif's little bits of philosophical wisdom. And there was one that he said about tears that I really, really loved. And it was just, it just was, and a lot of times it was when he was talking to the boy. And I felt like it was just like a younger version of him, and he's just talking, and they're just bonding. Also, I had a question. The daughter that committed suicide, did she know that was her brother, that she was having an affair?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure. I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think it's certainly ambiguous. Now, if she found out, it could be what drove her to commit suicide.
That's what I was thinking.
I thought that was what they said, that the father actually told her, and that's why they had to get her out. Now, did I misunderstand that? I thought that before she left, he had actually told her.
That he had actually, I don't, it's possible. That might have brushed by me, but that's possible. And I think that would justify, certainly within the screenplay, why she commits suicide. And it upset, as you saw, it upset Kenza a great deal, but because they didn't know. The sisters didn't know, and the father, this was among the many discretions that the father committed. It wasn't the only one, obviously, but that was part and parcel to it. But Zachariah didn't even know at the time. He had no idea. And everything sort of, when everything comes out, because he finds out that he's inherited part of the estate at the end.
Because what happened is, I remember it being said that the father sent her away to have an abortion.
Yes.
That I remember. So maybe I missed it also, Jackie. I might have missed it, because that would definitely put her over the edge for sure. And the thing is that like nobody else in the family knew. Now the mother knew, and the father knew, and
Yakut knew.
Yes. And the thing is that, it was, for me, like when the sisters find out all this, all the revelations, all the secrets that were hidden from them, it's a revelation to them. And I wonder where they go from here. With all these revelations, they learn that things were not what they seemed.
Well, that's, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And it opens their eyes to what people really are, not how we see them and put them on a pedestal, but how they really are.
Well, I think you're getting at the heart of the film. I mean, I think that's the heart of the film for the three sisters, is to discover, all of this, is that they have to be out in the open, that in order to survive, they have to come out in the open. And deal with each other. I mean, I think, in its own way, in the end, when Sophia's husband shows up, they all run to the window. They all want to see, and it's a way of acceptance of the West. Now it's also opening up to the Western ideas, and being able to, because Sophia was away, she left because of all of this. And now she's coming back, the husband's coming. So it's the reformation of the family. It's the reformation of the family, and it will change. It has to change. I think that's really the point. It has to change. And that's what Merakshi is saying. Things have to change. We have to rock the Casbah, basically. So that's what we get in there. Thank you. Who's next? Wendy, how about you? You got to unmute, Wendy.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. When someone said that these things happen and they're accepted, maybe in Moroccan Islam culture, but in the United States, if you recall, there was a maid that had an affair with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the whole family fell apart. They divorced.
Yes. True.
And the other thing I was thinking, the brother and sister, there was an old opera, The Ring, where Siegfried and Siegmunda, they're cast aside as babies, but they meet as young people, and their eyes focus on each other, and they realize there's something that connects them. So I had the feeling that this was sort of a motif in this film as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Dora.
Yes, I wanted to point out that at the end, the mother of the girls she tells Zachariah that this is your house, this is your home also. And also when they were watching the movies, that they show what Sophia was, what she was doing, and how real that movie was, that it was like, she was like covered in blood and all that. But Sophia was the only one who was close to Zachariah. She was close. I don't know if she knew that it was her brother. I don't know if she knew, but she felt like a closeness with him, not love, you know, as a woman, but it's a like maybe her friend, you know, something that she could share with him when she encounters him this first time. And so he said, you know, that scene when he's there and she comes out and they see each other and they embrace, and they're so happy to see each other. So they had a connection.
yes.
But at the end, it was shocking to find out that that this girl who committed this suicide was pregnant with her brother. So it was like a real shock.
Yeah,
At
which is
least it was
understandable. I mean,
shocking.
but something that, you know, within that society, and I'm sure people seeing the film would say this is not, you know, this is very real. It could be very real in that society.
It could happen, yeah, because they didn't. Yeah, I think in the world, I think it happens. Even sometimes, I am embarrassed to say, but sometimes fathers
Oh, yes,
get their
that's, yeah, well, that's the
pregnant in
abuse, yes.
some societies, which is horrible, but it happens. And
Yeah.
I know in the old world it did happen. The brother and sisters had a relation.
Yeah, well,
Sexual
they
relation.
didn't know at the time. That was the fact,
Yeah.
though, that they were innocent. And he, you know, it's also a breaking down of class barriers between Sophia and as Zachariah. There's a breakdown of the class barrier. That's another thing that she's getting at here, is that
Right.
has to break down as well. I mean, it's something that happened to her in reality. So she, you know, she knows this kind of character. She understands it. It's her. It's Merakshi, you know, she's the one, Slayla Merakshi, she's the one that really is represented within Sophia. She's her character. So
Right.
definitely. Thank
And
you.
also the relationship of the two women that were Omar Sharif's sort of wife.
Yakut, yes,
Wife,
Yakut and Aisha.
yes, in some parts of the world it happens, and it's not unusual that they even live in the same house.
Well, then, you know, in some of those societies, they have a number of wives, so it's they practice polygamy.
Yeah, but that's sort of different. But I know that in many years ago, it's not, maybe not now that things have changed too much, but I know when I was growing up, and I know that some women accepted that there was another woman that had, and the guy had children with both of them, and they even knew each other, and they were friends. So for me, it was not accepted. It was accepted that the man had some other family.
Let me put it to you this way. I don't know if it's accepted, it's unspoken. It's unspoken. I don't know how accepted it is by certain parties, but I would say it's unspoken. But thank you. Jackie?
Just one other thing too. I felt like everybody in the movie progressed, they learned, they grew, except for Zachariah. To be honest with you, by the end of the movie, I was really tired of him. And I didn't, I mean, everybody's got issues. All of them had issues, but he just dwelled on it so much. But I felt like everybody in the movie progressed and grew except him. And even at the end, I kept looking to see how I thought he might have grown, and I really didn't see it.
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, because so it's, the fact is there hope for him? You know, now with everything out in the open, is maybe he can grow. We don't know. Look, he was going to medical school, apparently, and dropped out. You know, as he's telling Sophia. And he's you know, he's a rebellious individual. So now, will he learn to become part of a family, is the question. That's the question. I think, you know, you can't tidy up everything. So I think that's a good point. It's a good point. Susan.
I was just thinking when you're talking about all these relationships, you go back to the Old Testament and they have the same kind of things. So it's not so unusual, if you think about it. But this class balance is a very hard thing. And he was always the maid's, the housekeeper's son. And then he had this attraction to the older sister who supposedly she looked like the younger sister.
Yes.
They're supposed to look alike. And maybe that's where the friendship came from. And I had to think to myself that it wasn't enough that she was pregnant from him, that she would commit suicide, that she was depressed. I had to think that she had to know. I mean, it was just too much to just say, okay, I'm pregnant, I won't have an abortion, I'll have an abortion, whatever. That she had to really be, I thought she was told, actually, I really do, that this was the thing. And then the mother was told after. And the mother was very accepting about the whole thing. And no, the sisters were wondering why in the world would she commit suicide? I don't even know if they knew she was pregnant, frankly. So it was very interesting to see how they let the puzzle lay out until they were told something, and they didn't scratch any surfaces. But with the father's death, all the rubbing between the three of them, the rivalries, the success, the not success, whatever came out, and it seemed that they all had their own issues, and they had to face their issues. But I want to tell you, I loved the movie. I just was enchanted with Morocco. I was enchanted with the whole thing. It started off so beautifully with the music, and I just watched it, and it was, I think, thank you, Shelley. It was a movie that I wouldn't have watched because I didn't know about, and I loved it.
Well, thank you, Susan, and it's a pleasure. I mean, it's you're getting, again, it's the heart of the movie is the fact that she very clearly defines these three sisters. She very clearly defines them. We see, at the beginning, we see Miriam, and obviously she's had something done cosmetically, and we see who she is, and we see her transform. Each one has their issues. She's obviously, her husband obviously was also a philanderer, because she was mad at him. When he says, I was at the factory, she says, why you lie to me? Kind of thing. So you have that. The only one that seems stable, but she was a little Meshuggah herself, was Kenza. She was so staid in her approach, and very, very formal, and even in her dress. And then you had, of course, you had Sophia, and Sophia was very much, they made it evident that she was very much like her older sister. She wanted to be an actress. She said, I wanted to be like her. She followed her around. She was the only one she related to, because the other sister said, you didn't talk to us. So obviously there was that connection. Terrific. Alice.
Yes. Yeah, I'm on the computer where I have a camera, so now I can finally talk to you guys. So I wanted to continue on about Zachariah, and I think his issue, as he stated it, was that his father didn't pay attention to him enough, because the fiction was that he was just the I guess illegitimate son of the maid. But yet he was given responsibilities for the cars and everything. So it was kind of a give with one hand, take away with the other, and don't show as much affection or time that you would give to a son. It's even that's a little bit on the slide. And then as far as him getting used to functioning in a family, following their customs, he just inherited the house. He's going to be the man of the household. And despite whoever he is, what he says is going to go. So I think he could get used to that.
Well, I agree with you on one sense, but on the other, I think the three of them would kill him. It would beat him up if he got out of line. They're not afraid to exert their own pressure. They did it on their uncle, when the uncle was supposed to get it all, and they said to him, oh no, it's not going to happen that way. So and then when we find out he is the heir, even when he takes the tea from his mother and he serves it to all of them, is in a sense saying, I'm here, I don't know if he's going to rock their Casbah.
Yeah, I don't think the girls are going to really gang up against him, because he looks like he's going to be really nice. They had asked, they were trying to get part of the inheritance, and I suppose he would probably give it to them. And at the end, it's all set up for the actress whose life is not working out. Her marriage is not working out. Oh no, she can't marry him. Yeah, never mind.
No, the husband comes back at the end, and they're
that's right,
they're
yeah.
fine again.
Yeah.
They're
So
fine
he
again.
can be head of the household, and I think he's been so deferential as a servant. I think he can definitely cooperate, and I think the girls, despite themselves, are still going to be traditional in following what the man says, although they are set up now to speak up more than they were able to before. But I think that would work with him.
Yeah, it would have to. It would have. He really wants it. He would have to. He would have to come around. I think he realizes that. Thank you, Alice. Bonnie.
Hi. Yes, I love the movie, and I just thought that the secret at the end, the revelation that Zachariah was actually the son, and that the girl who committed suicide was his sister. I think that was a very liberating revelation for the entire family, because I think it sort of put into perspective a lot of things that had happened in the past that wasn't understood at the time. And I think this was very enlightening for all of them, and Zachariah especially, because here this man had been close to him and treated him like a son. I think they said at one point, he taught him all about the cars and everything. And so he had been close to him on an emotional level. But then when he was involved with what we find out later to be his sister, of course, the father couldn't have this, this couldn't be tolerated. And so when he split them up and sent her off to have an abortion and basically banished Zachariah from the house, Zachariah's thinking is just because he's the servant's son. And now at the end, it comes to light that his father, his biological father, probably did love him, I would say, based on everything that we saw. But it was just because of this, alliance, this romantic relationship that developed between biological brother and sister that couldn't be tolerated. So I think for him, it was most liberating.
Yeah, because we see, there's always something you have to look for, the little details. And when Sophia finds the picture of Hassan and Yakut and Zachariah together, you could see, a little family there. Right. So you say, okay, what happened? And yes, it's definitely what developed between he and the older sister that affected this and changed everything. And now in his death, his son, which is in life, that's why they say, that life continues, that he's able to put it right, is what he did in essence, at the end of the film.
And that way, Zachariah knows that he wasn't banished, and
right.
The relationship wasn't not accepted simply because he was the servant's son, but for another more profound reason.
Yes, a member of the family, definitely. Marilyn.
I have a question, and I don't know if I heard correctly or not, but when Sophia sees Zachariah going and making out with this woman, did he not say she's the mother of my son?
Yes, he said that. Yes, he did.
So if he said that, and you're talking about where he's going, maybe, he has a son.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Do something, and it was just casually mentioned, and nobody said anything, and I thought maybe I heard wrong, but he did say that, didn't he?
Yeah, now that's an interesting wrinkle, because if he's inheriting, getting an inheritance, it means he has to pass on his inheritance to his son. So he's got a son. So now that woman now might become part of the family if he decides to marry her. You know, that's because it's a whole other set of problems. It's another film. It's another film. Leave it at that.
The sequel.
Yeah, right. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Yeah.
Well, that was terrific. I am glad you all enjoyed the film. And next month, we are moving into a comedic time. Two very wonderful films. I called it, the theme for next month is Laughter in the Dark. And, you know, nothing unites us like a good comedy. And what better way to end the year is what I felt, with two award-winning examples that should bring lots of smiles to your face. The first being Chinese Takeaway. It stars the wonderful Ricardo Darín. It's from Argentina. And it's a very interesting story. And the way we get into the film is really going to throw one at you, and how things turn out. I mean, this is, talk about a film of revelations. Where do you see this one? It's really beautifully plotted. It's a very funny film. It has a little bit of I don't want to call it magical realism, but coincidental magic in the film, by the way the director does it. But it's really one to talk about. It's really one that's gonna, I think we should have fun with when you see it. And then finally, we end up with Cyrano, My Love, which I'll talk about the next time.
Good.
So I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Shelley,
until-
thank you so very, very much.
Oh, my
Thank you,
pleasure.
Lisa.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed this evening. Thank you all for being here. And I will look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. So have a good 2 weeks. Thank you.
Yes, you too. We're looking forward to all these movies that you bring to us. They're great. They're great.
And
Thank you,
Shelley will
Dora.
be back. We already have our January, February, March.
Yes.
So stay tuned, guys, and it's gonna be more of this marvelousness.
Oh, I got some great films coming up. Some
Thank
great
you so
films.
much.
Thank
Ah,
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you.
Can you turn off the recording? Let's see.
Stop it.
So happy Hanukkah, whoever celebrates.
Yes, happy Hanukkah,
Okay,
who's ever
I'll do
celebrating.
stop video. Okay.
You stop
Yes,
it.
that video. We don't want that in the video.
Okay.
Oh, sure, why not?
Did it stop, Mayor?
It's not stopped.
Oh, okay.
No, it's recording.
I just stopped it. It should, wait a minute.
Okay.
I think it
I
says.
think I just stopped it.
Okay.
Let me
wait.
see. Hold on, wait.
Susan, did you do it?
Let me take-
Stop recording. Okay, it stopped.